Good evening, everyone. My name is Annisa nahdif Salsabila. Today, I will explain about the stages in language acquisitions. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, this is the point that I will convey through mind mapping. So, the first point I will explain is about the meaning of exactly what is a stage. How does one acquire language? How many stages do experts believe? So today I will discuss it. Today I will discuss it all. So the stages in language acquisition. So what the meaning stages itself. The stages is the word stage is a term that is often used in language acquisitions. The word stage can be defined as being part of our daily vocabulary, and we use it in communicating and is usually associated with misleading assumptions. So the short explanations, the notions of the stage is a term used to describe language acquisition. Stage can be said to be part of the use of the vocabulary that we use every day in communicating, that sometimes people will be very easy to assume about what we say, but the same way how we convey something to others. So the following is an acquired stage in children literatures of how children acquire language through development over time and the characteristic of grammatical development. So when the children acquire language, they have to through many stages. Okay, one of them I will explain about the stages. So according to Stern and Stearns, provide a statement explaining the several stages of children in acquiring language as seen from several factors such as the development of a scan over 5 time periods. The meaning is in these chapters according to Stern, he classifies the stages of acquisitions in children in communications and aims to describe how children's over time in acquiring language intend to be focused the characteristics of grammatical development. So the following is a stage according to Stern, which divides into 4 stages of children's in acquiring language. I have 4 stages that I have to explain. So the first stages, or we can call the preliminary stage, or the first period when the child acquiring language. The first period, invitations is not understood, or preliminary understanding. In this period, the child acquires small sounds with a special meaning to express ideas from whole sentence. Um, the existence of this preliminary stage explains that imitations that is not understand and the initial understanding, which means here is the child stage in language and acquire the language. So for the first period, or when a child begin to produce the words consciously, the stage is also child beginner in language and active productions is needed, emphasizing on the child's productive development such as a vocabulary and defining the end of the period with vocabulary spike. So the child realized that everything has a name, with the questions about the names of objects, multi-speech, first fluent, first hesitant, then becomes more fluent. Fluent. The second period, when the children's development in learning vocabulary through the accelerations path, with an interesting the names of objects by asking names along with questions. Will this process of child's learning stages in acquiring language start from the initial stage. So the first year, the stage consists of 3 behavior, babbling. There are 3 stages of vocabulary growth: substance, increase in nouns; second, actions, increase in verb; relations, and distinctions increase in qualifying and relations words. We have the third period. The third period where the child has started to form good sentences because it related to grammatical matters such as subject, object, and acquisitions and can progress in children. Children have started to form sentences well because the words obtain subject and objects their relationships with the grammar so that children can acquire language through words and and acquisitions of inflections can last for years. So the last period, the fourth stage, as this stage the child has begun to align word, words and syntactic form continuous acquisitions of several grammatical morpheme, child, questions, asking time, and casualty. It means the fourth period is where the child it's begin to arrange or align simple words and syntax. The child begins to learn about grammatical morphemes and forms questions that are asked, including time and casualty. Although there is no language during the first years, but according to Stern, there are activities carried out when children acquire language and then form a complete and good sentence. So here, as we can see, Stern argued that when children acquire language, there are several things and must be considered a precursor before the child can finally form a perfect sentence. According to Stern, there are three things that underlie children in acquiring language, namely babbling, imitating, echo babbling, rudimentary understanding. So I have to explain about these three things. So this is the three activities according to Stern in child development to the language acquisitions. The first is babbling. What is babbling? Babbling is a stage process of children in producing sounds that are arranged still unstructured become it is seen from the child and development and age when they start talking. Or the briefly explanations, the babblings is occurs because the child is deciding to babble. And Stern doesn't use the right words, but he talks about impulse and the mind. So the next, is an inner drive behind babbling and is divided into two. The first is the urge to express oneself, and the second is to socialize with surrounding environment. So from these two things, Stearns, according to Stearns, he's explained about the development of the children or children acquiring language. There is followed many factors, kind of like this one. Maybe the first babbling to urge express oneself or the surrounding environment. So the next is the child imitations or echo bubbles. This is a pace where children imitates and chatter about what the children hear, for example, from their parents because will affect children in acquiring language and train children in speak. So the child's imitations or echo babbling is the result of innate impulse or positions that cause the child to practice speaking. Maybe his many factors why the child can babbling. Maybe they can hear from their parents or surrounding. So the factors it could be practice for them. And we have encouragement to express oneself in children related to practice the words that functions to build a relationships with the stern and form of their voice. So the last is rudimentary understanding. The essence of this understanding is that the space descriptions of the child respond to certain speech. For example, waving their hand, it can be concluded that these actions are not related to the structures of language but to assemble the sounds that the child gets in a certain context. Maybe we can maybe for example, this is rudimentary understanding. It refers to a child response to a certain word such as clapping or waving. By the existence of these actions or actions does indicate an understanding of the structures of the language, but is only related to as the collections of sounds followed by the certain actions and context. I think this is the explanations from me. So the conclusions is the children acquiring language require process and stages. The stages that can affect the development of children, how to acquire language from just babbling to being able to form, to make a sentence perfect, and recognize the syntax of the subject and recognize noun. So thank you for watching this video, and bye bye.